Good morning, everyone. I trust we had a pleasant weekend, and I'm indeed glad that the training will be ending this week. I've gotten tons of feedback from participants, and you are indeed excited, and I'm glad you're following with the training. This week, according to the mail I sent you, is the week for ICBA and Arigato, UNESCO ICBA precisely. So we'll be learning about pedagogies, systems of education to young adults and children. So just like last week, this week promises to be an exciting one. And I'm sure you'll be well learned as to the tact and acts on how to train young ones on peace building and certain methodologies that will be useful as well. Been getting messages concerning the participant register, and in due course, the ICT specialist will give you due guidelines to that regard. But most importantly, would like you to rename your device. It's very important because we figured that we're having issues concerning your device name. So matching your device name with your participation has been tricky. So we'd like you to rename your device, let it capture your name. And also, as the training this week progresses, you would get the link to register and pen down how you want your name to appear on the certificate. Let me also remind you that there would be exams at the end of the trainings. So you're expected to score certain grades to get your certificate. And I'm also sure that IEP has informed you on how to run your ambassadorial program. I'm also aware that some people had already started to take the ambassadorial training course and will carry out the required projects or presentations at the end of the day. So congratulations on your progress so far. We are impressed. We are impressed with your commitment. We are impressed with your dedication. And we're looking forward to engaging you going forward. We're intervention programs. We're intervention initiatives. We're looking forward to partner with you in your different communities and how we can join hands to activate positive peace in the nooks and crannies of Nigeria. Congratulations once more, and I wish you a good training for the week. Thank you very much, everyone. Succinct, Jerusalem, Richard, and Kumi would be your trainees for the week, and I think they will take it up from here to let you know what the 3 days going forward would look like. Succinct, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Pietro. So welcome everyone. As Pietro said, this week is the workshop by UNESCO IGBA, and myself, Richard, my colleague, who's also from Nigeria, and Dr. Jerusalem will be playing the role in facilitating the week. To start us off, let me hand over to Richard. Richard, please.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, wherever you are in the state. As Sushi said, I'm from Nigeria as well, so it's really a great pleasure for me to be part of these sections and to accompany you during these days as we look at some of the roles and the initiative we can bring on board to foster positive peace in Nigeria. I can fully relate to most of the things that we have mentioned throughout last week in terms of the context that we have identified, because I have lived those experiences. I still have families and friends who are living these experiences, and I can completely agree with all you have identified. And I'm hoping that this week we're going to be putting up the solution hat a lot going forward to see where we can foster peace in our community. So I'm joining you today from the UK. So there is a bit of storm in the UK that is affecting connections and electricity. So I hope throughout the training, I will not lose the connection due to the storm. So just pray for me. And and I hope we have a good time. So just to kick us off for today, I'm going to want to do a bit of temperature check with us. So I just put a link in the chat, and I'm going to soon be sharing my screen. It's a Mentimeter link that I would invite you to click on or to connect to, and I'm going to be launching a set of questions just to know how you're feeling and what you have. I see a hand up, Philomena. Is it something urgent that you want to clarify?
Yeah, I'm just wondering why we have chosen to engage just the children and younger people in peace building. Why are we not including older persons? That's my concern.
Okay.
Why have we chosen to just engage the younger people? Why not the older people? It should be inclusive.
Yeah, sure. So I guess we would answer this question as we go on, but thank you for bringing this concern on. It's taking, we note it and we will deal with it as we go on during the sessions. Thank you so much. Okay, so are you all connected to the link now? So I'm launching, 1 second, I'm going to share my screen and I want to see the responses that you are giving. So yes. So just as a way of temperature check, I'd like to see, I'd like to know what you are feeling, the one word that describe what you're looking forward to in life this week. So it could be you want to be happy, you're looking forward to a new contract or something, anything that you're looking forward to this week. You can either use the link I put in the chat, or you can go to this website, www.mentimeter.com, and use this code on up there. You would get to, yeah, someone is looking forward to happiness. That's great. Divine favor, impact, happiness, fulfillment of purpose. Goodness. Right. Productivity, I like that. Good news, I like that too. Financial breakthrough, awesome. Productivity.
I see people putting their responses on the chat as well. That's welcome as well.
Yeah. So I see a lot of you want to have fulfillment of purpose. That's really amazing. There's also a lot of people that are looking forward to productivity and positive peace. That's already great. I see a lot of people in the group. There's over 100 people, but not a lot have used the link. So please feel free to go to the link and to share with us what you're looking forward to this week. It's good to be forward looking, you know. So perhaps what you look forward to can also determine how successful this session this week can as well be. But yeah, I'm looking forward to a very successful section on my part, and of course to make impact in the work that you do. Okay, let's go to the second question. Give me a sec. Yeah, I see more have come, but then let's go to the second one. So in terms of what you're looking, one of the key takeaway for you from last week, I already see quite a number of sharing, which is a good thing. The 8 pillars of peace are the key takeaway for you. Negative and positive peace definition, global peace index, 8 pillars of peace. Okay, so I've got quite a number of things that you retained from last week, which is already a good thing. Thank you for sharing. The link remain open, so if you want to put on some of the key takeaway for you from last week, that'll be great. Go ahead and do it. and also share with us what you're feeling this week. I don't know if you're hearing me very well, so if you hear me, can you use the reaction key to maybe give a thumbs up or something, show the sign. I need to be sure that people are hearing me. Okay, I see. Oh, great, thank you. Okay, so just very quickly, I'm going to share with you what we should be expecting this week, since a lot of you already shared with us your own expectations or what you're looking forward to this week in terms of the resource that we plan to bring to you, what we plan to do this week. Sushit, if you don't mind sharing the screen about the item for this week, that would be awesome.
Yes, Richard. Maybe if we first go to Dr. Jerusalem in the meantime, and then I'll come back.
Okay, sure. Dr. Jerusalem, if you are here, please. Yeah.
Thank you, Richard, and good morning, colleagues, and good afternoon for few of us. I know that few of us are from the different time zone, and thank you for joining us today also, and I hope you had enjoyed last week's session. And this week's session will be mainly handled by ICBA and Arigato team, the facilitators. And just to brief you about who UNESCO ICBA is, and UNESCO ICBA is an international institute for capacity building in Africa, and we work mainly on the area of teachers policy and development. So we focus more on the teacher training and the university level capacity building for teachers and educators. So maybe it will also address some of the concerns that one of our participants just had, why we focus on young people, but we also focus on the adults, on the teachers and educators at the higher education level. And that's the main mandate of UNESCO ICBA, of course, but as you are aware, the youth are the one who are vulnerable to the issue of conflict when it comes to the issue of conflict and violence. At the same time, without the involvement of the young people, especially in the school environment and in the higher education environment, it's a bit challenging to reach on a community which is peaceful. So that's why we have included this peace building for youth and volunteers program. And thanks to Petro and the other team, we managed to engage different volunteers, including you, on how to empower young people on peace building processes. So if you want to learn more about ICBA, we'll share our website and you can see and explore other training opportunities also. But all in all, this is part of the program that we have on peace building, and this peace building program is the main one of the main programs that's run by UNESCO ICBA under the financial support of the government of Japan. And I hope you had enjoyed the last week's session. I was also part of it, and thank you again for joining us today. As I said, this week we will have 3 sessions: today, Wednesday, and Thursday. The sessions that we're going to have will build up on the last week's discussion, which Milton was leading us. And we were discussing on the positive peace, on the knowledge and the skills, and how to use transformative peace, positive peace framework as a tool for research, program implementation, as well as on the how to implement this knowledge and how to engage others in the process. So this week, I can say that we will explore more on the how, mainly on the ethics of learning to live together and what will be the role of education on peace building and resilience, as well as we will explore practical approaches on how to engage the community, the children, and the youth-led actions so that we can promote transformative and peaceful peace at the community level. So we'll have 3 sessions, as I said, and we'll have also other activities like group works and engaging activities, which will also give us a chance to interact a little bit more on as a participant also. So this week all of us will be facilitators as it used to be. And thank you very much also for joining us today. And over to you, Suchit.
Thank you, Dr. Jerusalem. Yeah, just to maybe respond to the question of why children and young people as well. ICBA, as you know, is an institution with the mandate around teacher capacity building and education. So one of the key stakeholders involved in education are children and young people who we are trying to empower and really make a difference. So this is why we are thinking that that we bring a special attention to children and young people. But of course, as you know, and rightly pointed out, peace building is not just for them, it's for the entire community. But we are, during this particular week, coming down from the broader peace building focus to education and peace building. So the 3 sessions will focus on education and peace building. And because of that, we will give prominence to children and young people, but at the same time, then consider how to bring the community and the other stakeholders as part of this process as well. So not leaving them behind, but we are looking at things from an education point of view. So I hope that clarifies why this special focus on children and young people. And with that, maybe I hand over to Richard once more.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Sushit, and thank you, Dr. Yerusalem, for all the clarifications. And I also saw a question in the chat, someone asking what ICPA was, but thank you, Sushit, you answered that ICPA is the International Institute for Capacity Building in Africa. So it's good when we have acronyms like that and you see them, please do bring them up. We make sure that everyone is on the same wavelength as we go on. Just as we dive into the sessions for today, one of the approaches, as I mentioned, or the things that we would be doing this week is more or less looking at solutions to some of the issues that you have identified in the past week. And this will cut across a number of sections that is focus one on learning to live together and the role that education plays in this context. Of course, there are so many other approaches that we can bring on board, but we want to see how can education be used as a tool to contribute to the positive peace framework or the positive peace that approaches that we have identified in the last week. We would also look at how participation is important and the engagement of people in their community or the engagement of learners. So not just giving the knowledge, but how do we use those knowledge, the issues in the community, but also the knowledge acquired during the process to do something or contribute to the community. And then we'll go further into looking at specific approaches to maybe supporting children-led initiative, children and youth-led initiative. That also mean you being the facilitators or trainers or formators or animators, whatever we may call you, or mentors, will be able to see how your engagement with children and young people is also helping them to become agent of positive peace in the society. And if time do permits us, of course, we would look at how to design and implement projects, which I think can be also tools that would be helpful for you as you go on in the weeks to come in developing your project. As I understand that at the end of this session, each of you are supposed to either engage on a peace project or a presentation somehow. So I hope that during this week also, we'll be able to reflect on some of the things that you can take into consideration when designing your program and your initiative for peace in the country or in the states where you're currently resident. To go on, of course, with UNESCO ICPA, we have worked and developed a guide that we call the Youth Guide that talks about this transformative pedagogy and the approaches to peace, the role of education and order. So perhaps I just give the floor to Sushi to can do maybe a quick run through this guide, which each of you will get, of course, at the end of this training and to help you also when you design. Yeah, Sushi, please.
Yes, thank you, Richard. So as Richard mentioned, ICPA has developed these guides. These first guides focused on educators. So there has been a guide for Sahel and the surrounding countries. There's a guide for Eastern Africa, for Northern Africa, Southern Africa, like several adaptations of the guide to reflect different contexts around Africa. So this particular guide is focused on teachers and how this program on transformative pedagogy can be used with in the education system. And then at the same time, Pietro joined last year as part of a program that where we developed a youth guide on education for prevention and peace building and prevention of violence. And this was the training that Pietro initially got involved. That's why he conceived that along with the IEP training, the SIGBA training can come together and complement each other and become a meaningful opportunity for all of you across Nigeria. So this particular guide is targeting youth and youth organizations, young people involved in peace building, seeing how they can contribute towards peace education for peace building and prevention of violence. It's available in multiple languages, and we've already conducted some trainings, as I mentioned, and I hope we will make sure that you receive it over email and the links for that, so that you can also go through it. Some of the content we will be using and are based on these guides that are additional resource materials for you to refer on your own. Richard.
Yeah, thank you, Sujit. Thank you for sharing. So yes, again, back to our discussion earlier, as I mentioned that this week we're going to be focusing basically on solutions, and one of the things aspect that we would like you to think around in terms of solution this week is the area of education. What role can, because last week we, in our context analysis with Mitten, we were talking about some of the conflict or the challenges in our society that we identify and would like to solve. A lot of us talked about marital violence or the problem of insecurity, banditry, mass kidnapping, and the rest. There were economic issues, poverty, unemployment, and the rest of that. There were quite a list, and I can see that almost in every state or in every city, there's one thing or the other that we needed to address, and there's need to also focus our project and attention into finding solution for those areas. So this morning, I would like us to do a very short exercise to begin to see how education can respond to some of these challenges that you have discussed in the first week. So it could be that you either pick one of the challenges, the many challenges that you have identified, or if you want to group them into cluster and say, in this area of challenge, how can we use education to respond to these issues? Can education be a tool that can solve, for example, the problem of insecurity in the Northeast, or kidnapping in the South Side, or whatever the case may be, or even the problem of inequalities in society, as the case may be. So, and going forward, we also want to see what are the different roles that education for peace what role can education play in peace and resilience building. So we would like you to work in group in the couple of minutes. So I'm going to be sharing this joint document with you in the chat shortly, and each of you would be able to access it and to put maybe some of the suggestions that you have in that. So you will work in your group, and each group, I expect that you can appoint for yourself maybe a moderator and someone who can help take note on the Jamboard that I just pasted in the chat, and try to suggest some of the ways that you think that education can be used to transform the situations that you identify. It could be education in the formal sector, it could be the non-formal education, because I know that a lot of you come from different backgrounds, and not all of you are teachers or professors in the university, but then you are implementing projects in different ways, and you want to use maybe your non-formal education platform that you organize to create avenue for people to learn about peace and peace education. So in this case, you will be thinking with TOOCAP, either formal education or non-formal education, as the case may be, and try to suggest some of the ways that education can be used. So I just put the link. I see there are a lot of messages coming in, so I'm putting the link again just to be sure that you all have it.
Richard, you need to change the settings for people to access it. It otherwise requires permission. So
Right.
Into that.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, just to clarify to everybody that there are 10 pages on that. Once you access the Jamboard, there are different pages and you'll be grouped into 10 different groups. So based on the group you identify, use that page to take your notes. So if you're in group 7, use the page number 7. There's arrows at the top of the pages to move around between pages. You can use page 7 to take your notes as a group. One person from the group, if others are not able to connect, if one person can help to take down the notes from the group discussion, that would be fine as well. You can use the tab on the app, but you can also access it on your browser. So you should be able to open it on the browser as well. It's Google Jamboard, so it's on Google.
Yeah. And now I have shared the right to edit it. So what you need to do, just go here. If you see, sorry, my screen is in French, so but here you would see thinking or whatever, I don't know how it is in English, and you just click on it, it will pop up a screen like that, and you can type whatever you like. No, I see someone is drawing on it already. Please don't draw on it. You can type something like that, and you go here to register to register it, and then it will appear like this. You see that, and you can move it around. So yes,
Richard,
I hope
the groups pages.
Sorry, yeah,
Pages.
and then to go to the, so this is for group 1. So for group 2, you just go to the top of the screen. You see the arrow, the 2 arrows, so you can move yours. This is for group 2. This is for group 3, group 4, and then to 10. You can move it to wherever your group number is, and the approach to put suggestions will just be here. Just click on that. You can change the color if you want to make the different suggestions clear, and like that. And then when you type peace education, for example, and then you record. I'm trying to find the word for record in English, but I don't remember. Yes, and then you just save. You just save your suggestions, and it will appear in the place you want it. I hope it's clear, but if not, please do put it in the chat, and I'm happy to respond. So yeah, we're gonna do this exercise for the next 10 to 15 minutes, and we'll come back to the plenary, 15 to 20 minutes, sorry. We'll come back to plenary to discuss some of your findings and propositions. I see Zigwai up. Maybe it's an urgent. I will take it very quickly, but for others, maybe you can put your questions in chat. Zigwai Tagwai, you had a question.
Good morning. Sorry, it's not a question. I saw a lot of people complain about having to download Jamboard. So I just wanted to make a suggestion. Maybe everybody doesn't have to actually download Jamboard. Well, by the time we are split into our different groups, if you're using a laptop and you are in each group, you could just easily access the Jamboard on behalf of the group. So that, because the people that are saying they have to download, it means you're using a phone. So you could just find out the people in your group who are using a laptop for this meeting, and they will access the Jamboard so they don't delay the timing. That's it.
Thank you so much, Zigwai. Yes, that's correct. So you don't need to download the Jamboard. That's why I was also suggesting that you can appoint either one facilitator and one net taker, so everyone don't have to log into the Jamboard. And so one of you who is conversant with using Jamboard and who probably is connected on your computer can use to when people make a suggestions, you can type on their behalf, and we can work in this way for now. So we don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to put you in the group now and try to see what we come up with in the next couple of minutes. Yeah.
Richard, maybe because there's some questions on the chat, just to clarify, you will now be allocated to groups. So you will find yourself allocated to a group. You will have to join and click the group, click join button, and then you'll be taken to a group. And in that group, you'll find a smaller number of participants together. So it will be like this meeting room, but it will be with lesser people. And as for note taking, as it was suggested by Zikwe, one person taking notes even is enough. If more people can take notes, that's okay. And we expect that at least out of the 10, 15 people in a group, one should be able to be on a laptop. So don't make it a cumbersome thing that if you're not able to access the Jamboard yourself directly, a colleague can step up and volunteer to be the one who does it on your behalf. So let's go into the rooms and then think we can help each other and take leadership to support.
Associate. Okay, I see hands up, but I hope we don't. Is it something very Olisa? Okay, let me see. Olisa, yes, you had a question.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Good morning. Good morning, class. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I want to really ask a question. How do we get to know the group we belong when it's being shared?
Yeah, you would see the number of the group where we're going to launch the group now. And once the group is launched, you will see the number. You just need to click to accept the group you are assigned to. It will be done automatically. And depending on the number that you see on the group, you would see if it's group 10 or group 1. And in that group, you can write your solutions or suggestions in the Jamboard directly. Okay, sorry, I hope that we don't lose a lot of time answering this technical question. The most important thing is to go to the group and to reflect on what role education can play in addressing most of the issues you've identified in week 1. So don't get lost in the technicalities so much. It's not the most important. The most important is the ideas that we want to generate. So hopefully out of 10 we would find one person who will be able to deal with Jamboard, but if not, just take it down and you can share in the chat thereafter. So I would launch the group now. So the group has been launched. You would see the key to join on the top right-hand side of whatever you see on them. Yeah.
Friends who are still here in the main room, please do join the breakout rooms. Others are waiting there for you. So you need to click the button and accept to join the breakout room. If someone still has an issue trying to join the breakout room, let us know and we can try to resolve.
I see a couple of you who are not able to join. Is it because you couldn't get in the room or something? So please just, it should normally be on your screen. Just click on it and you will find yourself in the room.
Hillary, I've assigned you to a group. You should be able to now see a button. Please check.
Sorry, Sushit, could you say that again?
No, it was for Hillary who had a request in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Sandra, you've been allocated to a group, but it seems you're having difficulties. Let me move you to a different group, and hopefully that will help you to. Richard, if you can go for group 9 and help. They're asking for help. Sandra has joined group 10. Professor Onyeke, I see your hand raised. Did you have a question or? Professor Onyeke, did you have a question?
Welcome back, everyone. I hope we have everyone. And I see some people are still coming in. So in the meantime, I can take your comment, Abdullahi, and then Iberi, before we take the group feedback. Very quickly, Abdullahi.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Welcome, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I was unable to make some of my contribution right from the one they started this program.
Right.
Okay.
So you want to contribute to the group work now, or you have a different concern?
I joined in very late, but I don't know what the group work is.
Okay, we're looking at the role of education in addressing some of the issues. We will come back perhaps to this when the group give their feedback. Perhaps you can have, if you have some additional suggestions, we will take it. But for now, maybe we go straight to the group feedback, and then you can listen to what they have.
Okay. Okay. But yeah, so based on the education concept.
Yeah, for now,
okay.
we have the
Yeah.
feedback from the group because we don't have a lot of time. And then if there's additional input, I can take you back. Okay.
Okay. All right. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much for the group work. I was in a couple of the group and I see the wonderful discussions. I know the time is not enough to bring about all the roles of education and how you can address all the issues you've identified last week. But this is just a way to begin to see the part of the contributions that education can bring in this area. So I would just go ahead to take maybe the groups as they are. If you are ready, I don't know if these hands that are up are representing the group, but if not, I would kindly suggest that you lower them for now, and then after we can take the additional comments if there are for now. So let's start with group one. If you are ready, please. Who is speaking for group one? Okay. Iberi, are you speaking for a group? So if people lower their hands, it's easier for me to know who is speaking for a group, and I can activate their mic.
And if you can identify yourself, if you are speaking for group one, please share that on the chat and then we can unmute and allow you to speak.
Yes.
If you are the presenter from a group, please identify yourself on the chat. Otherwise, it's difficult for us to figure out who.
Okay, let's start with the group that the five tries. Sophia. Yeah. So perhaps a very
Janice from group two. If you can go ahead, go ahead, Janice.
I don't see Janice. Could you activate her mic, Sushit?
Okay, thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, Janice. Good morning. Go on, please.
Okay, so I was trying to send a complaint that we were not able to comment there because we couldn't use the chat board. So I'm hoping this is okay if I just speak here.
Yes, and if you can put it in the chat, I will try to copy and paste on the Jamboard for you.
All right, I'll do that. Thank you. So in group two, we were able to remember the problem we had of unemployment. It was a basic problem. And then we said that vocational skills could be introduced in schools for the sake of students, and then it would be made compulsory. And as a result, everyone would have to take those courses. And because of that, by the time they are done with school, with education now, they would have something doing. And we also try to link that to banditry, kidnap, which are also major issues. And then we said, if everyone is being given free education, or not everyone, at least for those who cannot afford education, they are being given access to school, And then we said that some of the bandits and kidnappers are people who have schooled, but because of lack of jobs, they go into stuff like that. But if school is being given to those who don't have opportunities, and then for those who have the chances, they are being given the chance to take compulsory courses for vocational skills, and then they are able to learn it till like they are experts, or they are able to do it well and they start early, they would have things to do, and as a result there would be less of those kind of issues. And also I think that we said that non-governmental organizations or non-profit organizations or grants generally could be given to people graduates who are done with school, and then they are being able to, they are given maybe certificates for successful completion of training, and then they would be given these grants in order for them to be able to implement their businesses. And we also said that for those who like someone, we suggested that these things could be introduced early at early stages of school. As a result, while they learn like over time, they would be able to be experts in those areas, and later they would have those things to do. So these things can be done like either formally or as a form of informal education. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janice, for this wonderful presentation for your group. I see you've done quite a lot, cutting across different areas that you think educations should be able to address these issues, and where you need to introduce curriculum. So that's a great contribution from your group. Thank you again. I see there's Josiah who is speaking for group number 7, right?
Thank you very much. My name is Josiah, and I'm speaking for Group 7. So quickly, I'll just highlight what we discussed. Group 2 actually has touched one or two that we discussed, because we found out that one of the things again that is causing issues is unemployment, which we said, and there is fear, there is the issue of banditry and all of that. So we suggested that vocational education will be fantastic. Okay, if you introduce vocational education where people will be trained in skills and other aspects of beyond just the regular school, teach them how to develop business, how to make things for themselves, they'll be able to be engaged, okay? And that way, there will be peaceful, there will be reduction on conflicts and those other banditry issues. We also looked at moral education. This might sound strange because, again, the school ought to be teaching morals, right? But we found out that it's not being focused upon. So moral education should be introduced where we'll have courses or issues that will be talking about character, we'll be talking about things that affect the society and how those things could be limited or how those things could be handled. That way, we'll be able to curtail a lot of characters. They will know what temperament is all about and how to actually address everyone in their specifics, okay? And we looked at the role of education in addressing some of these issues, what it could do, because when you teach them peace through education, what will happen is that there will be peace, they will have respect for one another. Education can reduce religious conflict, of course, and we're going to appreciate one another, come to appreciate each other's culture, each other's lifestyle. You know, it will bring respect. We also looked at it will bring tolerance. Of course, that you know everyone will be able to tolerate each other, because now you're understanding why this person is behaving the way he's behaving and why this person is doing what he's doing. You'll be able to relate with them. Education also will bring about unity, togetherness, okay? So these are the things we are able to identify. And we also say that one important factor again that education could do is to keep the people engaged. So through education, you could actually keep some of those perpetrators of conflict and social harm engage with various aspects of life. That way, they will not start thinking of how to harm anybody and won't be idle in life to carry out conflict or activities that will create that won't generate peace in the society. So that's what we identify. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Josiah. This is really a great work from your group, and also how you try to link the issues in the society as also a lens in the educational sector and building like positive coexistence between learners in the education system. That's really a wonderful contributions, and I couldn't agree more with them. Okay, thank you. I would go to group number number 5 with Boma. Boma. I can see to activate your mic, but
Good morning.
Good morning, Boma.
Bama.
Bama, excuse me. My apologies.
All right. And now, there were 2 questions we saw on the Jamboard. The first said, how can education respond to the challenges discussed in the first week? Now, the response that came was that education changes the mind. That with regards to insecurity, for instance, insecurity actually begins from the mind. It's when you begin to think things and see things that are not there, or interpret things in ways that are not in the light of sustainable peace, that insecurity begins. So if one is able to be educated properly, one would be able to see changes, because according to one of the contributions too, was that education reprograms the mind through the processes of, would I say, subtle indoctrination. Then one other challenge again was this issue of use of abuse of drugs amongst the young. And one of the things that was suggested was that education could help in fighting drug abuse as well as other juvenile vices. Now, for instance, in the area of drug abuse, if one is able to show those young adults or youths the effects, the actual effects or real life stories of those who are into drug abuse, or the effects it shows on them, then it would help a long way in reducing the growing trend that is coming up among young adults, especially with this thing they call ICE now. In the southeast of Nigeria, they call it Mkpurumiri. You know, so if people are able to do an education-related maybe video and show a narrative of how these things pan out in the end, it could help in stemming the tide of drug abuse and actually building resilience in the minds of people, because everything begins actually from the mind. I think that is about where I would stop.
So much, Bama, and I love the point where you ended the need to build resilience in the mind of people and the learners. So this is really a good thing. I don't know what Nkurimiri means, but I hope a lot of you understand this. But maybe if you can put in the chat what Nkurimiri means, that would be great. So that we. Okay, great. Okay, thank you so much. So we'll go back to group 4 with Mr. DCC Chukwuka, I guess. 1 second. Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Chukwuka. Yes, sir.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, we can, sir.
Our group where we had like 5 points, what we think education can do to improve peace in the community. Number one, we agreed that peace provides the necessary information on the essence of peace, and benefits of peace, and the overall direction that peace will take a community. Number two, we said education will expose the dangers of violence and conflict. If you don't know, you don't know. Some people engage in violence and conflict, not knowing the dangers associated with that. If I must give an example, the young men that are being recruited into banditry might not know that banditry is like going to war with an empty hand. The number three, we said education will promote friendship and team spirit, which will promote peace. Friendship, that is what the unity schools in Nigeria is supposed to do. When you bring a young man from Kano and put him in the same class with somebody from Bayelsa and the man from Enugu and Oyo State, they will get to know themselves, they will understand themselves, and they will become friends. On the long run, they will know that where you're coming from has nothing to do with who you are. And that will reduce conflict and, of course, build peace in the community. We also said that education has an integrative effect on peace, that people will get together and become one piece. That will encourage peace. Finally, we agreed that education is a reorientation tool, reorientation that can change the mindset of people about others, the mindset of people about other religions. An educated person who has read the Bible intensely will also read the Quran and understand that it is the same God that we are worshiping. It's just a different styles of worship. And that will help to change our mindset and the way we reason for the benefit of building peace in our communities. Thank you very much.
Mr. DCC Chukwuka, that's great to have an all-inclusive integral education and not just to focus in one aspect alone, but to give an all-inclusive knowledge and to be able to integrate and collaborate with other people. And the example of the Unity School that you mentioned, I think can also be a good example for even the private schools or the state school or whatever the kind of schools, to create that spaces to foster friendship and positive relationship in society. So thank you so much for your group. I don't see the other group. I see hands up, but I'm not sure which group they represent. So if people can put in the chat which group they represent again, and I will give you the word. And Sushit, if you know them, please. Yemisi for group 6, yes.
Or Ernest for group 3.
Okay, let's start with Yemisi and then we'll come back to Ernest.
Hello, beautiful afternoon.
Thank you, Yemisi.
Okay, so answering the questions, we had 5 points, and insecurity, they said, begins in the mind. And it's said that an idle mind is the devil's workshop. And we think education is the only measure to refine the mind. So education is needed to change our way of reasoning. So when we talk about people that actually don't have anything doing, if their minds are educated, I don't think anyone will want to go out there fighting, want to go out there, even if there are things happening out there, you wouldn't want to involve yourself in it. So I think our minds need to be renewed. Then secondly, we talked about moral education. Moral education actually starts from home. No one is born with hatred. So if in our homes we can start training people, we can start training our children, we can start training ourselves, because our environment actually form us. So education from home is a practical approach, and it's crucial to start at home. if you're, like we were saying in our group, if you're from a faulty background, there is no how you would have the morals, there is no how you would understand actually what peace actually is. And also, peace education should be included in our school curriculum. I think one or two persons have said that. It should be included in our school curriculum. So if from school, you are being taught about peace, you go out there and you know the right thing to do. From our primary schools, from our secondary schools, if they can make it like a rule that it's been inculcated, it's been included in our curriculum, it's actually going to help the society too. Then since insecurity begins from the mind, it's very important that the mind is renewed. And it's only via education that the mind can be renewed. If we can have peace societies in our environment and people join and they listen. I think education is what you listen to and you keep listening to over time. It actually reforms you. And lastly, we also discussed about in churches, because we've come to understand that we respect and honor our spiritual leaders greatly. So in our churches, in our mosques, in our religious homes, if they were being taught, like somebody that was asking a question earlier, that why are we focusing on youth? Everybody goes to church, even the old people go to church. So if our churches can talk about peace, they can train us more about peace, I think it would actually help the society, and it will be a way forward. Thank you.
Yanis, thank you for your group work and for all the stakeholders you've identified who can help in fostering these educations in society. Okay, let me go quickly to Enes from Group 3. Enes at Senoa.
Yes, good afternoon all.
Good afternoon, Enes. Welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, in Group 3, we looked at how education can respond to some of the challenges we picked last week. We talked about last week. And some of the challenges that we talked about last week were growing insurgency, cybercrime, cultism, ritual killing, and so on. And education, first of all, is meant for people to get knowledge. And once this knowledge is got, a lot of changes can occur. Now, some of the people involved in these crimes, they already have fixed mindsets. Their minds is fixed, and all they're after is, I want to make money through these processes. Their mind is fixed on that. But with education, their minds, you can enlighten their minds to make them realize that getting money is not all about being involved in crime. There are legitimate businesses or things that you can do to make you also have money. So first of all is enlightening the mind, and also try with education to change the fixed mindsets of persons. Then also from the home, because some of these problems start from the home. If there are no proper parenting or there's parental failure in the home, then you see that this is what the society will become. But in all, as parents, it is very, very necessary for us to bring up our children properly, because there are cases where a child does not work. The child will go out and come back and come with iPhone Pro Max, and the parents will not say anything about it. That is parental failure. So we must bring up our children properly from the home. Then also, like the last speaker said, religious leaders, very important. If we can preach this peace and good behavior, morals from the church, people will always listen. Both the Muslim and the Christian leaders, it is very, very important that they are also part of this educational process, because we're looking at both formal and informal education. Now, education, for instance, on peace, good, just like the 4 pillars of positive peace says, good neighborliness. All those are things that when it comes from the altar, from the pulpit, people will very much listen. Then also, it is very, very important for youths to be properly engaged. So we can also have skills, they can be taught skills that will take their minds off crimes. When they're engaged, they learn some skills and they are busy, their mind will also go of some of those crimes. And also the knowledge of what is going to happen if I get involved in crime. This is something that should also be preached even in our academic institutions, so that the youth will know that if I do this, because like I said, most of them have fixed mindsets. So when this thing is well spelled out to them, that this is what is going to happen to you if you get involved in this, then I'm sure that gradually the minds will be enlightened and they'll gradually get out of crime. It's these vices that I've mentioned, they are very important, and that education alone can really do a lot to shaping the future of the youths and ensure that they are taken out of crime. Thank you.
Thank you, Enes, and thank you for your group as well. If I might ask crave your indulgence to the rest of the group that have not yet spoken, to keep it a bit shorter, so that we can do well on time, because we have gone a little bit above the time we had for this part. But yeah, let's hear you, Sadia from Group 9.
All right.
Sadia, if you're speaking, we still can't hear you.
Okay, can everyone hear me now?
Yes, now yes.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity. So for Group 9, we pointed out 6 roles that education can play in peace, in positive peace. One is education aids in sensitization. We can have a proper understanding of peaceful coexistence through education, right? So it's important that people get aware that peace building is important. Sometimes we know something is good, but then it's also important that an extra step is taken for everybody to get informed, to see how important that is. And that comes from knowledge, sharing that knowledge, creating that awareness for people to see how important it is for us to live peaceful. And then education can really play that role. We really looked at, would see a lot of, we can say for sure that we can say 5% of people who participate in violence, conflict, who participate in conflict, they must have gone through education. We could say maybe nursery, primary, or secondary school education. And then we are going to ask if while they were in school, we had a curriculum around peace education or peaceful coexistence. We are sure that would impact them in what they do, even a little bit of that. And then number 2, we talked about education improves skills and aids in better modeling of knowledge and abilities. So in order to prevent conflict and paving the way for peace, it's very important that we all get skills, and then there are various skills we can learn from the formal and informal sector. But one most important thing where we learn these skills in any of the sector, there's education gives you that sense of responsibility. Education gives you that sense of you always thinking around results, right? If I'm going to act this way, what is going to be the result and how it affects the society, how it affects the other person. So that just makes us even more responsible. So education helps us in developing such skills. And these are skills that allows us to make better decisions that affect the society. So we are now thinking of everyone in the society. And then the third point is education provides good relation with neighbors, which is a bedrock for positive peace. So while from childhood, sometimes there are people who grew up in homes where there's no peace, maybe from the parent angle or within the siblings. But when you go to school, that's where you find peace. And that is where you understand the importance of peace, because now you can relate with not just your sister or not just your parents, but you're relating with different persons, different people. And that's how we start to build that unity. We start to build that skills that allows us to relate with the world better. So education provides the bedrock, it provides the first basis for us to relate with other people peacefully. So number 4, education can help in development of curriculum in all fields. Okay, we've actually talked about that. So we just talking more, we having to talk about education in school, right? And then this, just teaching about the education, and the students get so interested with it, and we can see the impact that the topic, the discussions we are having around peace building with education is already creating from the school, and then also in the society. So it can also lead to the creation of adding it to our school curriculum, which is very important. So this is to say that when we start conversation about peace education, it can really create more conversation within the educational sector that this peace education should be added to the curriculum. And then number 5, education helps to promote problem solving. Believe me that when you have people, young people, old people who are really educated, right? So when you
Yeah, I think we lost you,
is a problem.
Sadia.
They are not the
Is
first,
it possible,
blaming and you're asking.
Yeah. Yes, could you conclude, please? Because, yeah.
Okay, was I breaking?
Yeah, well, if you can conclude already, that would be great, because we are out of time. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the last point is about education helps to raise awareness of the roots problem of conflict. So education just gives us that the necessary skills we need in order to be able to know where this problem starts for and the stakeholders that we can involve to solve the problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sadia. For the rest of the group, if it's possible not to explain the point, if you can just list them as you have them, that would be great. So I don't want to lose some group that I don't give the opportunity to. So I would like every group to speak. So if it's possible to keep it short. Sunny, group 8.
Okay, thank you. We choose group 8 chooses to discuss solutions to banditry. We've realized that the root cause of banditry in Nigeria as a form of insecurity is a lack of education. We get to realize that most of the bandits arrested are very young in their youthful age and lack education, that will guide them, that will guide their thinking capacity. Hence, we come up with a solution. The first is to catch them young education initiative. That is to imbued education, to imbued system of education in our primary and secondary school curriculum that will inculcate the discipline of peace building and the 8 pillars of positive peace inculcated in that curriculum. This will go a long way in guiding, the conceptual thinking of the people involved in banditry, to address the challenges. Also, we look at massive sensitization of the people involved through a reorientation process. This will go a long way in exempting even those that were involved in the past, to guide them to stop the issue of banditry. Moreover, we also look at their vocational training, which is another form of education, which will help arrest the issue of unemployment, which is a tool that translates into insecurity, causing many youth to join banditry. So we believe that with the informal training, through vocational training, it will go a long way in eradicating the menace of banditry. So for the sake of the timing, there are other points, but many of my colleagues have already stated those points. So I think I will stop here and let others proceed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sani. That's great, and thank you for being charitable with the time with us. I saw Ramat was supposed to be for group 1, but I don't see your hand anymore. So what we can do for groups that have not spoken, if you can put, try to put your point in the Jamboard or even in the chat here, and we would be able to recuperate them and come back to it later on. But I will take maybe the last intervention from Ramat, and then we can conclude this part of the session already. Ramat, I activated your mic already. You can speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It has been a mind-blowing. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I'm representing Group 1. The question we asked was, how can education respond to the challenges discussed in the first week and the roles of education for peace resilience building? You see, in the last week, we discussed extensively on the challenges listed, which were, among others, kidnapping, armed battery, unemployment. And of course, one of the group members made mention of the ritualism among the youths. You will quite agree with me in Nigeria. The major
So Ramat, since we don't have
Ramat,
since we don't have a lot of time, if you can go to maybe the list of the suggestions that you have in terms of education, so that I can also give Dr. Abdul some time. Yeah. Go on, please.
Okay, we actually identify ritualism among the youth as the major problem and how education can help to eradicate these vices in our society. We've looked at, we tackle it, and we look at education helps an individual as a person to seek their own happiness, security, and purpose in life. We've actually looked at education as well that can determine the quality of life of an individual. If all these children, they are below 13 years, are engaged in ritual killings in Nigeria, if given the opportunity for them for a better platform of education, they will understand that killing an innocent soul, informal training and all that, all the necessary tools they give to them, they will have other means of making an end meet other than engage in themselves in killing innocent people or loved ones for money or otherwise. So basically, we talked about information to these children in the school. We talked about empowering their mind, informing them, tell them what is good for them to achieve in life other than engaging in all this negativity right from the onset. Basically, that's what we discussed in Group 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramat. I would encourage the group to put your thoughts in the Jamboard or even in the chat here for those who cannot use Jamboard, so that we don't lose any of the point. So Dr. Abdul Hamidu, I will conclude with you, please. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. In our group, we realized that education is considered as both formal and informal, and education is problem solving, information skills, knowledge, and the rest of them. So in that case, we begin with the Yahoo boys, who we consider that with proper education, they can now turn their skills into something very profitable for the society. Why, in terms of the other aspect of peace, in terms of the banditry, we said that informal education should be considered first, then before the formal education through the religious bodies and organizations. Why, in terms of disunity, we suggest that more emphasis should be done on a generic education that emphasizes unity and the rest of them. Then in terms of other aspect of crime, we suggested that vocational education, entrepreneurship education, and innovative platforms should be devised. Education should devise those platforms so that we use them for peace building in the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abdul Hamidu. That's a good way to conclude. I mean, I like the point around the problem-solving ability of education. I thank you to each of you, to all the group, for the wonderful discussions. I mean, also bringing not just solutions, but also identifying some stakeholders that should be involved to make this education responsive to the issues that you have identified, and as well to look at how the different stakeholders can collaborate to bring the knowledge. You also talked about looking at the integrality of education, not just talking about curriculum based, the competency based on specific issues, but also an all-inclusive integral form of education that would help to refine the minds and build positive relationship. And this is really a great thing. And I'm happy that some of these thoughts are already popping up at this level. Perhaps to take that a little bit further in the area of education for peace and resilience building that we mentioned in the second part of the questions. I'm going to hand over now to my colleague Sushit, who will take us through this aspect further. But thank you all for participating actively in the discussions.
Thank you,
So
Richard.
Sushit, I give you the word. Yeah.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you for everyone for the wonderful reflections that you had from the group discussions. I could hear about different aspects of the role of education that can play towards building peace and resilience in our communities. You talked about the importance of employment, making sure that young people are not out there on the streets, but are meaningfully engaged in being entrepreneurial, being problem solvers, being employers themselves, and that way avoiding them being dragged into violence and conflicts. So that's one key aspect of education, making sure that young people are productive stakeholders in our society. At the same time, I could also hear the importance of understanding peace, the role of education in helping people understand what is peace, appreciating diversity, being able to create this positive value for peace. That was another aspect that I heard from the groups. Along with that, the impacts of violence, impact of negative experiences, how it can be damaging, being able to understand that so that we are mindful and we are respectful of other people's rights. These were some things that you also highlighted. I think with that goes the importance of empathy. How do we really help people to be empathic towards the other? It's not just in the head that we need people to understand, but it's also connecting to other people's need and being able to put yourself in the shoes of the other. And education should cultivate this sort of nature in ourselves, in our societies, in our communities. It was very interesting also to hear that moral education being talked about. In our work, we talked about ethics education, and it's very similar to this moral education that, yes, we need to also, when in our societies that are very religious and religious aspects dominate also the relationships between communities, we need to also help bring interpretations that bring people together instead of dividing them, help people find solutions to moral issues and find ways that allow them to live together in a meaningful life without impeding oneself on the other and restricting other people's rights and freedoms. This is very important and that sometimes not very easy thing to do. And I think that's something we can pick up later on as we discuss as well. So building on some of these and building on the discussions from last week, let me try to highlight some key aspects of education for peace and resilience building that we think are important. So you already looked at the positive peace framework and understood that. So let me then go more. So with the positive peace framework, we talk about the negative aspect of negative peace and then the positive peace, right? So education has a role in both of these aspects in a way, but especially in building that positive speech so that we encourage the structural changes that need to happen, the cultural changes need to happen, the social changes. unless our communities are engaged in the process of understanding, awareness, become conscious of the issues, then we can't really transform our community. So education plays this key role in creating this consciousness of the impacts of negative peace and the aspiration for positive peace. In areas of conflict or post-conflict realities, we see different types of education or different focuses of education. One aspect is education in emergencies. So in certain areas, I know in Nigeria also, where there is a strong violent groups active, then the focus of the education system becomes education in emergencies, is to avoid the negative impacts on the children and young people that are, so when girls are being kidnapped, these are situations where there are emergencies. So the focus has become more humanitarian in trying to prevent the negative impacts of the conflict, of the violence on the children and young people. And so that's one aspect we see. In a second area, we call it conflict sensitive education. Here, it's not just the humanitarian aspect, it goes a bit beyond that, but it's trying to avoid the negatives. So it's not to try to avoid further escalating the violence, further escalating the conflict issues, and tries to minimize that negative impact. And we call that principle do no harm. So making sure that, for example, inequalities are not furthered. So if there is resources in one community and educational opportunities in one community, making sure that other communities also having equal access to education, so that we don't see this inequality becoming a part of the further driving the conflict further. But then what we are interested in this particular week is to really look at this third area, which we talk about education and peace building. And that seems to be, tends to be a longer term process where education contributes to ensuring our communities are peaceful, and now young people are also positive agents of peace building. Then we use different terminology related to this. So education and peace, we tend to use several different terminology, which are sometimes interrelated, and we use one instead of the other, depending on different contexts. But these are sort of our understandings of how these concepts can be looked at. We talk about education for peace, education for peace. So education that helps promote peace. So it can be that there is different vocational training things. There's different aspects of education that contributes towards ensuring that the community is peaceful. So this is a very broad idea. Different parts of education, different subjects, different formal activities, non-formal activities, informal activities can contribute towards peace. So while that broader focus of education for peace is there, then there is a specific area we call peace education. Peace education. But peace education then is a bit more focused on the issues of conflict and peace. It's trying to help people understand why is this conflict happening? What are the root causes of the conflict? Helping to understand the analysis of this, introducing peace theories, talking about how identities are interrelated with conflicts. So this aspect we call peace education. And this is a crucial part. And I think many of you already highlighted this as part of the role of education as well. Then in a third level, we also talk of education for peace building, or education for peace and resilience building. Here, I think the main difference is that we also see that not just understanding among the learners, but them also becoming peace builders at their own levels, becoming active contributors towards peace building is a crucial difference we see in education for peace building. At the same time, it also is linking education to the macro and micro peace building efforts. So for example, a good example you talked about already is introducing mixed schools that can help communities come together, understand each other. So that at a school level, the communities mix and children get the opportunity to expose themselves to different culture, diversity, and this becomes part of their learning experience and livelihood. So that shapes how they look at the world, diversity becoming a positive experience. So these are three aspects, and I think especially the last one on education for peace building is what we are really trying to harness here and emphasize as well. Again, I think this summarizes some of the aspects that you also talked about. Education for peace building is about those knowledge and skills that are important for us to learn to live together. It builds this knowledge, builds the skills for us to relate to our differences in our communities, the ability to dialogue when there is a different and find solutions. That's very important. It also helps to strengthen social cohesion. So a sense of belonging to our country, our nation, our community. This is very important. When people feel they're not part of a community, they tend to move towards violent forms of trying to solve problems. So strengthening this aspect of social cohesion, respect for human rights, peaceful coexistence, fostering positive values that promote interconnectedness. These are important aspects. Then we also are constantly facing the challenge of more radical or violent groups that promote violent agendas. So how do we help children and young people to prevent them from getting caught up in this violence? In that way, the critical thinking that is important, we need to build their ability to be resilient to these violent narratives that justify violence and keep them away from being pulled in or pushed into radical and violent forms of violent extremism, etc. So that's another important part. We need to build that capacity in our education systems. Then we also often we see when young people turn towards violence, they felt that they don't have a voice. They felt they've been excluded. Either the community leaders are adults, older people who don't give them the space, or they are aspiring for something and they don't find hope in the social system around them. So by creating meaningful opportunities for young people to contribute to transforming their communities, that's another form of a role that we need to link. Our education shouldn't be in a bubble. It should link to the community. And this, how do we do that more and more? How education can really help to solve problems, not just to study about the problems, but help solve some of the problems that the community face is a crucial aspect to consider. And I think you already talked about this integral approach of education, seeing it as a holistic experience, seeing it as both the formal, non-formal, and the informal, connecting the home and the school and the community, these different ecosystems of children and young people. And I think seeing this big picture is very important to promote a cohesive approach to peace building and resilience building. So these are some things that I wanted to use to summarize, and you'll find more information about this in the youth guide. But at this point, if there are any quick comments that somebody wants to make, I'm happy to welcome them. I see some hands up. I don't know if they're from earlier or from just now. But can I maybe ask Ibrahim if you had anything to share? If you don't have anything related to share now, you can lower your hand. But if not, please. Ibrahim, do you have anything to share?
Hello.
Yes.
On our group discussion, most of the issues that has been listed is related to formal education.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue of informal education have to be employed in making peace in societies, because some people did not engage in through the formal means of education. Therefore, there is need to employ the informal measures in bringing peace in societies. Thank you very much.
Yes, very much so, Ibrahim. Sometimes cultural education, where you use theater, sports, and other types of cultural practices to bring communities together in informal settings, or activities that happen at community level or in the homes, that are crucial part of what can prevent violence and build that resilience. So I fully agree with you about the importance of informal as well as non-formal education. We call it in three: formal, the school system, and the more formal, Non-formal, maybe as you run projects, it's structured, but it's not from the school government system. It's a project maybe as you as a Rotaractor is going to run. We call that sort of projects non-formal education. And then informal is much more not so structured activities around education that happens maybe through storytelling or community theaters, community activities, social camps that are much more informal. I see some other hands as well. Halima, did you have a comment, Halima? Halima, did you have anything to share?
Okay, good afternoon.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of this platform for the series of training and the impacts of knowledge. Thank you. You guys are doing a very good job. Just a few contributions concerning to the role of education towards peace building and conflict resolution. So I just want to add, in addition to whatever that person has said, that in our various schools, we should also think about setting up peace clubs in our schools. This will be an enabling environment or a platform that will be set up for pupils to be able to learn about peace building and also ways that they can build their resilience towards conflict.
Exactly. Thank you, Halima, for bringing that out. And we will talk about that.
And then violate conflicts. Come again?
Sorry, there was an interruption, so I thought you had finished. Please go ahead and.
Oh, okay. So having a girl safe space also in our various schools will also be an added advantage to our pupils. We all know that the minds of our little ones are very open to receive anything, and in the process where we don't impact them with the necessary knowledge or education, they could, be prone to receive anything. All right. So catching them young, using the safe spaces like the peace clubs, the girl safe spaces will go a long way in building their capacity and also building their resilience in responding to conflicts. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And we will discuss more about peace clubs as a structure and an approach to empower young people, children and young people in our session on Thursday. So I hope that there can be more insights about similar experiences on Thursday. So let's go to Smith. Can I invite you next? Yes. Are you able to speak?
Yes, please. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Smith Omota Pascal, representing Youth for Transparency International. I'll quickly like to share. Okay, I wanted to share my screen to talk about the Education in Emergency Working Group, which is a group coordinated by UNICEF under the Humanitarian Response Plan. A lot has been going on over the years. I've been a member of that committee for a while, and I believe we've not added anything on peace and conflict building. We've been concentrating more on the out of school children, getting them back to school and all that. There hasn't been provisions for training, whether formal or non-formal, on peace building and letting them know that apart from whatever happens to them, they can still live in peace. So I feel coordinating with the humanitarian plan for the educations in emergency will help us also go a long way, since they are doing a lot in Nigeria in the Bay areas, which is Borno, Adamawa, Yobe. So I feel there's so much we can do. The next meeting, I'll take a lot that I learned from this training to the meeting and find a way where we can synergize and also educate the stakeholders on how to train and bring both negative and positive peace trainings to our meetings and our implementations. Thank you.
Thank you. Smith, and you bring out like a very big dilemma or a challenge in our development world, right? So we have the humanitarian sector, we have the development sector, and then we have the education sector. The humanitarian context is more fragile, and sometimes they are not able to cater to development needs. They are really focused on the immediate needs of that community, protection, survival needs of that community, and those who are involved. And we don't, at that time, sometimes the working groups on that might not so much focus on the development needs, right? And even in the development, where we might prioritize the infrastructure for development, the livelihood, etc. And sometimes maybe the basic access to education, literacy, numeracy is prioritizing development work compared to maybe in education, where we also prioritize the softer aspects of socio-emotional learning, moral education, these more softer things that sometimes are considered a bit less tangible by the development sector or the humanitarian sector. So how we transition from and build on these different approaches is very important. Yes, there is situations where it needs to be priority humanitarian and a longer term development approach, but at the same time, we need to also see the importance of the softer, more educationist approach to building understanding about peace in our communities among everybody at different levels. We can talk about also in context of crisis or refugees with refugee communities who are in emergency settings. Can we build a peace education program? Can we run an activity where they learn about peace and while they are facing some challenges, how do we do that and what would be sensitivities? I think these are things for you to think about as you also are people implementing programs as well. I see Professor Onyeke. Can I invite you, Professor?
Hello.
Yes, Professor.
Are you hearing me?
We do.
Okay. Yes. I've seen very productive aspect of this program, and I've taken it not lightly. But two words, key words I want us to define: community. So many people think that community is just the geographical community. Community has social, political, economic, industrial definitions. The same thing is neighborhood. Key, vital, repeated word that I saw while reading through Positive Peace is neighborhood. And neighborhood, to some people still are limited to the geographical locations. But there are also extended understanding of neighborhood, such as professional neighborhood, industrial neighborhood. If you live, or let's take, for instance, you are a health worker, a medical doctor, and you spend 16 hours in hospital, and you spend only 2 hours where you live, or more, let's say 8 hours, you'll find out that your neighbors in the hospital are more aligned for you to build peace within that hospital. So I think that we need to emphasize these two words to expand their understanding by members of this community. And I'm very grateful for the job you have done. And I pray that you'll be able to put us together, all the participants, so that we start from local government to up to federal government to be productive in peace building. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you for bringing up these two key aspects, community and neighborhood, how we locate it and how we identify with it makes a difference. I think identity goes with, for me, with that, how we identify ourselves, with which community do we identify. So the sense of identity, helping develop a community, sense of community with the immediate, but also the transformative community, the one that is different to you, How do you build that sense of community, solidarity with those who are different? I think that's what I reflect from your flagging of the word community and neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will quickly share this because we are coming to an end with our time for today. And I wanted to connect our discussions from the first week around positive 8 pillars of peace, and then to look at how we bring it into this week's program as well. So the issues that we highlight under positive peace framework, the 8 pillars, are informing of us, are representative of the context we live in. It's a reality that we are all immersed in. It's the reality, the challenges, the opportunities in Nigeria are represented by this framework, right? So it's the context that we try to build the educational program in. So when we are thinking of a programmatic way of looking at things, this context should then inform what is the program we want to implement, right? We are going to look at this context, these challenges, then think of your peace project or a peace initiative that you will run. And that we need to take into account, build a program design that's responsive to this context. Within that program designs is an educational component, the content, the topics that we include, so that especially when we are doing this educational project, there is learning for meaningful learning experiences for children and young people. And here, when we talk about learning experiences, it's not limited to knowledge. Sometimes our focus is about disseminating knowledge, but in a holistic experience, we talk about knowledge. We also talk about the skills of dialogue, skills of listening, skills of being able to resolve conflicts. These kind of skills related to peace building, we highlight those as well. We highlight attitudes, being able to empathize with the other, being respectful, these kind of attitudes that are important. And then finally, translating all of this into actions as well. So in the proposal that we provide, that's why the third session is very much focused on action and collective action by children and young people. We believe that in order to change our society, we need children and young people contributing to transforming these realities that we are in. So if we want to do something around 8 pillars of peace, it's not just us doing it, but it's also how do we empower children and young people to contribute to building peace. And if so, they need to work together to impact on this 8 pillars of peace. So we say these are collective actions, child and youth-led actions. So how do we create an empowering experience so that they become also, while we directly contribute to peace building along these issues, how do we also take the next generation towards that in a meaningful, empowering way? I think this is what we will explore tomorrow and day after. Tomorrow's session will focus on 2 key aspects: participation. How do we ensure all of this is done in a participatory approach, in a transformative approach? And then in the engagement of the community, how do we really engage the community in this process of educational programs? And then on Thursday, sorry, that's not tomorrow, that's on Wednesday. The next session is on Wednesday. On Wednesday, we will talk about participation and in community engagement. And then on Thursday's session, the final session, we will talk about child and youth-led actions, this aspect of how do we really empower them to be agents of change in our society? How do we step back instead of us taking the lead? How do we let them take the lead and provide that supportive role, the empowering role that is needed? So this is what we have in store. I realize that we are at the end of the time for today, so we are ready to conclude, but at the same time, if anybody has any questions, we can remain for a few minutes here to respond to the questions. But I hope for today, you've started to think about the wide role that education has to play in making sure our country transforms, that making sure that our communities are peaceful, making sure that our young people are resilient towards violence and conflict, even in conflict situations. So with that, I thank you and invite you to connect with us again on Wednesday Again, if you have any questions, please do remain for a few minutes. We'll be here and we can respond to your questions. If you have questions on the chat as well, please feel free to share. I see almost all of you have stayed throughout this session actively engaged. I really appreciate that despite the challenges with connectivity. Thank you for going through that extra effort. So if anybody has a question still you would like to ask, not so much on the content, maybe related to the process, you can identify yourselves on the chat and then I can call. Okay, Obiora, please, can I invite you?
All right, thank you very much. And I'm really impressed by the level of exposure for this particular training. So actually, the IEP has another curriculum online, which I've already enrolled. And as I'm talking to you, I've finished the 5 module and I've gotten my certificates.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the difference between that certificate and this one that we are going to get after this live session? I want to know the difference. And then what else after now that I have done with the online courses? Thank you very much.
Yes, so maybe a simple explanation is that this training is a joint training, right? So it's done with Rotary involved, taking a lead role, and then IEP involved, as well as UNESCO IGBA involved. So different partners have come together to offer a joint workshop. So the first week focused on the IEP aspects, and then the second week is offered from UNESCO IGBA, more related to education. So the certificate that you will receive for being on this live workshop will recognize that you've gone through all these aspects. The certificate that you will get on the online platform with IEP is a certificate specific for that. It will also recognize, I think you have the opportunity to become a IEP ambassador. And I think that process is with, you can continue to do so after this training as well. So you implement a project and share back, and then you can be certified as an IEP ambassador. That process goes on. If Milton is still here, maybe Milton can respond more to that. There is no specific certificate for only last week's training. So either you get the certificate for, what I understand is what I'm clarifying, that there is a certificate for the 2-week training, or you can get the online certificate from the IEP online platform. Any other questions? I noticed that I do not know necessarily myself about if there is a payment required for. I think if you want to be a member, maybe there is a payment, but maybe that's something you can direct to Pietro or Milton. If you are here, you can clarify if the IEP certificate requires any payment. Bama, did you have a question still?
Yes. Hi, colleagues. Hello, Sujit and Richard. It's Milton here.
Please.
Hi, Milton. Welcome.
Yes, no, thank you everyone for the session. It was brilliant. I enjoyed so much all the conversations linking education to the different fields, you know, all the different challenges we identified even last week, the linkages to the 8 pillars of peace, you know, the very practical thinking that takes into account the factors and not just, you know, thinking about things that would be good or nice, but really considering what would work in our different contexts. So thank you very much for this. I think Sujit explained it very well in terms of the difference in the certificates. The 2-week training is a joint training. So the certificate you'll get from this will recognize this joint aspect. And then the certificate you get from the online training is something separate. As I said, this is simply an opportunity for you to get a deeper appreciation, not just of the relationship between Rotary and IEP, but the 8 pillars of peace. So even now, would like to encourage you to go to the website and register for that online academy and take a look at the pre-recorded sessions for this training. In terms of the payment that's needed for the online academy, you could ignore that part. Your certificates will be coming to you in spite of the training. It's something that we waive for partners and for training such as this. But ordinarily, if you weren't doing it with us on this platform, you would be paying. But it's something you don't need to worry about. So you don't need to pay. When you complete your training, we'll know that you have, and then we'll give your certificate to you. So thank you once again, and I'll hand the mic back to Sucha.
Thank you, Milton. There was a question from Babagana about meso. I had mentioned meso. So we say micro at the smallest level, macro at the larger big picture level. Meso is the middle, sort of in between. So that's a clarification. Just sorry for using terminology and not clarifying it on my part. Pietro, I see you're also here. Did you have anything to add and clarify, Pietro?
Yeah, I think Milton have clarified that already. I'm really impressed about the training. To others, it may be a training, but to me, it's more of a dialogue, having to hear the solutions, the propositions by the participants. A lot of take-homes, a lot of implementation that it requires. And it shows really that the participants have good knowledge of the solution to Nigeria's problem. And like the last person asked, what next after the training? I think for us, what next after the training is to put intervention programs together and partner with them to implement certain things to activate positive peace in their communities. And like Prof rightly observed, communities are not just your geographical location, it's intangible and intangible. So there are several spheres of communities, as the case may be. So going forward, we'll be working together to implement so much of their propositions at the long run. Thank you very much, Cecil.
Okay, thank you. I see several hands up still. Bama, did you have a question? If you can try to address. Others, feel free. We've concluded the session for today, so feel free to leave. I'm just responding to anybody who has still any remaining questions. Bama.
Hello.
Yes, Bama.
Yeah. Basically, we've been talking about education. I initially asked Richard, but I guess he didn't get it. Now, we are taught that no one is born hating anybody. Now we are taught to hate, right? Now, means that education could be both positive and negative. Agreed? Now, the question now is how we identify or what are the parameters to know what is positive education and what is negative education? And if we're to identify that or build parameters with which to measure that, how then, for instance, in the issue of those who have been indoctrinated into terrorism, banditry, and the rest of them, haven't been educated in that line, how would we, following this training, be able to break that hold on their mindsets? What parameters, what tools would we be able to use for those who would be engaging such people, for instance? How would they be able to de-radicalize them? What tools would they use in the DERA program? Thank you.
Yes, so that's a very big question, but I understand the fundamental question of what what makes education positive? I think that's a complex question to understand, because something that we assume to be positive can easily be a negative experience for somebody. We go with the best of intentions, try to do something, but then for the person who feels threatened by it, that doesn't feel safe in that space, feels discriminated by the program, then that can lead them to being feeling isolated, and ultimately maybe taking a more violent approach to solutions that they decide on. So this is what we talk about. I think what makes education positive is when we've taken that extra layer of conflict sensitivity, taking that extra step to consider that, to understand that, yes, what we do might have negative impacts. What can we do to prevent that negativity from happening? We might do something with the best of intentions. We are very being generous. We put our voluntary time, we put our voluntary resources, and we are going to schools and doing this out of our good hearts. But yes, that still can create divisions in our community and to drive violence. And so that lens of conflict sensitivity, not in just preventing violence, but creating positive connections is very important, and maybe is one part of maybe what can make education positive. There's more complex answers I can give maybe, but it might not be in this short time or even within these 3 sessions that we have. But I think that's a very important question to keep asking for all of us as we proceed. I see several hands already, but maybe if it's not a really important question, we can take up tomorrow on on Wednesday in our next session, because I think we should wrap up for today. But if you have any questions related to the process, you can use the chat for now. But otherwise, I welcome you to have a good afternoon and then reconnect with us on Wednesday. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
So I think, Richard, I'm going to close this meeting room.
Hello, sorry. Good morning, sir.
Yes, Abdullah.
Good afternoon, sir.
You had a question?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity. What I want to make my contribution toward is this peace advocacy. If we can actually inculcate it into our educational system from primary to the tertiary level, so that it will now be part of our system, so that every child bringing from the primary school to the tertiary, they will know, understand the importance of peace advocacy, because we have a lot of children that is not going to school. And again, this possibility, if the government can make from primary to secondary declare free education, so that every individual, every children will have access to education. With that, somebody said it earlier that an idle hand is a devil workshop. Let us reason it this way into our educational system. If our children have numbers of people that is out of school, they don't have Western education, they don't have knowledge of education, these banditry, kidnapping, fraudulent activities will continue to increase. But when they have the knowledge of education, they are given the opportunity to go to school, they will not feel that the society is biased. If they have that at the primary and secondary level, then maybe one reason or the other, they can have some technical education, which will eventually help them to further their education. With this, with help, they will be being trained, they will be trained about the peace advocacy, the importance of this peace in the society, and many other things. So I think it is high time for us to put this
peace advocacy as part of our curriculum from the primary to the tertiary level. Thank you. This is my contribution. Again, this peace advocacy is not something that should within what we are discussing here. It's something that should be a campaign within the society, religion, places like mosques, churches, and some traditional places, so that it will now be part and parcel of the society, the important, so that they will know the importance of peace. Because we have heard about war, but we have not seen war, what war is. And where there is peace, there is development. Because we know what this issue of insurgency, banditry has caused to our economy today. So with this,
I fully agree with all of that you have said. So I think maybe in tomorrow's session, you can also highlight it, but I fully agree with what you have said. And I think this role of advocacy, especially as people within Nigeria who are actively connected to peace building efforts, your role, I think, is important. So this larger group, I hope that your larger group can become this cohort of advocates for peace and in different levels, right? So whether it's with the neighborhood school or with the religious schools, wherever, how we integrate peace education. That's one, this being an advocate for peace education is very important. And then when we do integrate, what goes in there? What is this peace education? We talk about education for peace building. What is the content and what approaches do we take? This is the second part. So I hope that the next sessions will also help in that regard. And I fully agree with your proposal to advocate for peace from, I would say, even from early childhood, primary, secondary, tertiary, as almost a lifelong experience in terms of how we integrate it to our education systems. I think because of time, I'm gonna wrap up for today. If anybody still has questions, some specific questions that's pending until Wednesday, you can write to my email. I'm sharing it here, and we will try to clarify you. Or you could write to Pietro, and Pietro can help to clarify things about this process as well. Thank you and have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.